Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel where global stagecraft, royal elegance, and political theater blend into stories that captivate the world. Today we dive into a moment that left both diplomats and royal watchers in stunned silence. What unfolded at the United Nations this week wasn't just another speech, it was an unexpected twist that merged international diplomacy with royal admiration. Fresh off a state visit to the United Kingdom, a visit filled with pageantry and history, the U.S. president arrived in New York for his highly anticipated address at the UN General Assembly. These events are always brimming with tension, but this time the story took a turn that no one could have predicted. Amid the expected declarations and global pledges, a single remark shifted the entire narrative, a public recognition of Catherine, the Princess of Wales, as one of the most influential women of our time. In that instant, the world's most famous podium transformed from a place of policy into a stage of unexpected reverence. Observers gasped as this line was delivered. Commentators quickly realized this wasn't just a polite nod, it was a declaration that reframed the conversation around royalty, leadership, and the evolving definition of power. To understand how we got here, let's rewind to the days leading up to this speech. The president's visit to the United Kingdom earlier in September had already sparked global attention. From the moment Air Force One touched down, cameras captured every handshake, every smile, and every ceremonial detail. These trips are never just about politics, they're about symbolism, alliances, and the timeless pull of royal pageantry. Windsor Castle, steeped in centuries of tradition, became the centerpiece of this story. The ancient fortress has witnessed countless historic moments, but this visit carried a different energy. It was a meeting of two worlds, the bold stagecraft of American leadership and the quiet, enduring elegance of the British monarchy. The result was a series of encounters that would echo far beyond the castle walls. Inside Windsor, King Charles III and Queen Camilla played their roles with the dignity and warmth expected of them. The state banquet glittered under chandeliers, a reminder of traditions that stretch back through history. Yet, the spotlight inevitably shifted toward the next generation, Prince William and Catherine, stepping gracefully into their roles as symbols of continuity and modernity. Catherine, in particular, captivated attention throughout the visit. Dressed in bespoke ensembles that blended sophistication with approachability, she became the central figure of conversation. Her natural poise, combined with her ability to connect in both formal and relaxed settings, left a lasting impression not only on her guests but also on the global audience watching from afar. Sources from within the event described moments of genuine connection. Conversations were said to flow easily, laughter was shared, and the atmosphere, while formal, felt unusually warm. Catherine's effortless ability to balance charm with substance stood out. Observers noted that even brief interactions seemed to carry weight, a quality that defines true influence. As the banquet unfolded, the tone shifted from ceremonial to personal. The evening wasn't simply about speeches and toasts, but about forging bonds. Catherine's resilience and strength, particularly admired in recent years, seemed to shine in these encounters. She represented not only royalty but also modern leadership in its most graceful form. When the president returned to New York, this impression lingered. While his speech was expected to focus on the familiar themes of global cooperation and national interests, a new thread found its way into the narrative. The admiration for Catherine, formed in Windsor's gilded halls, now had a global stage on which to unfold. At the UN headquarters, anticipation filled the air. Delegates filed into the vast chamber, expecting a speech that would touch on policy and priorities. What they didn't expect was for royalty to enter the conversation. When Catherine's name surfaced, the atmosphere shifted. Diplomats exchanged glances, journalists leaned forward, and suddenly the speech became more than diplomacy, it became a moment of human connection. The president's words described Catherine as a figure of extraordinary poise and quiet strength. He reflected on the personal impression she had made during their recent meetings, suggesting that her influence went far beyond ceremonial roles. It was an acknowledgement that in a world of constant change, the Princess of Wales had become a symbol of stability and leadership. The hall reacted in waves: surprise, curiosity, even admiration. For many, it was a refreshing reminder that leadership isn't only about offices held or titles claimed, but about the ability to inspire and endure. In an age defined by rapid headlines and shifting narratives, Catherine's steady presence stood out as something enduring. News outlets immediately seized on the moment. Headlines around the world lit up with interpretations of the remark. Some called it flattery, others called it strategy, but most agreed on one thing: it had transformed the speech into an event that would be remembered far beyond the walls of the UN. In London, the reaction was just as fascinating. Kensington Palace responded with its usual subtlety, issuing polite words of acknowledgement, while Catherine herself carried on with her public engagements with the same grace as ever. Observers, however, noted the small smile she carried at her next appearance, a smile that said more than any official statement could. William, often the quiet counterbalance to public frenzy, was seen in conversation with aides, his expression a mix of pride and amusement. Those close to the couple say they are well accustomed to global attention, but this particular spotlight felt different, a recognition of Catherine's growing role on the world stage. On social media, the moment exploded. Hashtags celebrating Catherine's influence trended globally, with millions sharing clips of the remark. Admirers praised the acknowledgement, pointing to her years of charitable work, her role as a mother balancing public and private life, and her ability to maintain dignity through challenges. Public figures also weighed in. From media personalities to global icons, many praised the comment as a recognition of women's leadership in its most elegant form. Others debated its meaning, asking whether such a moment could reshape perceptions of monarchy and diplomacy in the modern world. For historians and royal watchers, the significance ran even deeper. They saw it as a testament to the enduring appeal of monarchy as soft power. While politicians and governments change, the royal family represents continuity, tradition, and cultural influence that extends far beyond borders. Catherine, in particular, has become the embodiment of that influence for a new generation. What makes this story so compelling isn't just the remark itself, but what it symbolizes. It highlights how influence can manifest not through force or authority, but through consistency, grace, and service. Catherine's reputation has been built not on declarations but on actions, quiet visits, charitable initiatives, and her ability to inspire trust in those who watch her journey. As analysts unpacked the moment, many pointed to the broader implications. Could this spark a renewed focus on soft diplomacy? Could it reshape how leaders acknowledge the impact of figures outside traditional politics? The questions remain open, but the conversation itself is evidence of the power of symbolism. Even late-night hosts and cultural commentators couldn't resist weighing in. Jokes and memes circulated, but beneath the humor lay recognition of something genuine. The acknowledgement had tapped into a truth many already believed, that Catherine represents a new kind of influence, one grounded in humanity as much as in tradition. The global fascination with the royals has always been strong, but this moment pushed it into new territory. It was no longer just about gowns, ceremonies, or tabloid speculation. It was about recognizing the Princess of Wales as a figure shaping the perception of leadership in a world hungry for steadiness. In the days that followed, the story refused to fade. Commentators continued to revisit the speech, replaying the remark, dissecting its tone, and speculating on its long-term significance. What became clear is that it struck a chord far deeper than anyone expected. And perhaps that is the real takeaway. In a time of uncertainty, when global audiences often feel disconnected from institutions and overwhelmed by headlines, a single moment of admiration, directed at someone who represents grace, resilience, and compassion, has the power to resonate. It reminds us that influence is not always loud. Sometimes, it is the quiet presence of someone who endures with dignity. Catherine's story is still being written, but this chapter marks a turning point. From Windsor Castle to the United Nations, she has emerged not just as a princess, but as a symbol of modern leadership. And as the world continues to watch, one thing is certain: her influence will only continue to grow. So, whether you see this moment as strategy, sincerity, or simple admiration, it has undeniably carved its place in history. The podium of the United Nations has heard countless speeches, but this one will be remembered not for policy alone, but for the acknowledgement of a woman whose quiet strength now echoes across the globe. And with that, we are reminded of the enduring magic when tradition meets the modern stage, And when leadership is recognized not just in offices of power, but in the grace of those who carry the weight of history with a smile.